Closing in on 24 hours to the NFL draft, and this is our HQ Spotlight mock draft spectacular. We are 5 wide here. We wanted to go 8 wide because there are 8 of us on the show. Just couldn't fit anybody else on this set. I'm Chris Hassel. That's B-Mac, the 2-time champion, Brian McFadden, Danny Cannell, Lige Douzable, and Joe Pesci. as Will Brinson said. You look good, Pete.
Hey, you are what you are. I'm a paisan.
That's Pete Prisco. We are also joined by 3 other guys who are going to play the role of GM today. Ryan Wilson, who's been doing mock drafts till the cows come home. You have Rick Spielman, who's part of the With the First Pick podcast, and Will Brinson as well. So we have 7 GMs, though I get to play the role of the general manager, at least for the very first pick with the Chicago Bears, because producer Noah was worried that somebody like Pete or Brinson would screw things up. We are going to keep it sane at number 1, even though Pete said that if he was the Bears, he would take Jaden Daniels. I am going to select Caleb Williams as the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Is Pete the only one that thinks that Jaden Daniels should be the pick here?
I think so.
I think it's a lot closer than people are talking about. I think it's a lot closer, but I think Caleb is the number 1 guy.
Yes. I mean, look, I'm doing a mock tomorrow and taking Caleb Williams, so it's kind of that's who they're going to take.
For sure.
It's the one thing we all know from this draft. So that's why.
But if you were the general manager,
I would take
you would take Jaden Daniels.
I would.
Okay.
I
Caleb
would.
Williams to the Bears at number 1. That's what's going to happen on Thursday. That's our number 1 pick here in our mock draft as we get to the rest of the guys for the rest of the picks. And Pete, you are up at number 2 with the Washington Commanders, and this is perfect for you because you're going to get your guy.
Yeah, I'm taking Jaden Daniels. I think this is a no-brainer. I think you have to take him here, and I think they will take him. Jaden Daniels will be special because he can move, has the ability to run, and I know he gets criticized a lot for taking too many sacks. And he's reckless at times running the football. But I think if you're Washington and Cliff Kingsbury will cater the offense to him, I think it's a great pick for them.
What are we believing about the number 2 pick? Because there's been a lot of rumors, rumblings out there. I think Cliff Kingsbury, I think it's built for him. We saw what he did with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray actually put up really good numbers. I think there's a similar skill set there. I like Drake May better, but I'm with you guys. I do think the Commanders pick him at that spot. I think he fits in the system better. But I think it's interesting because all of a sudden there's this rumblings he doesn't necessarily want to go there and he's like a better fit somewhere else. It's almost like he's hedging a little bit in case he isn't the number 2 overall pick.
Nah, I think he's going number 2. You talked about it, Cliff Kingsbury being there, his skill set. Pete, to me, he's the most dynamic quarterback in this draft. We know what he can do with his legs, but I don't think people have talked about enough what he can do within the pocket. To me, he has the calmest feet out of every quarterback in this draft, and people worried about his arm strength. He can throw the ball down the field with plenty enough arm strength. So, to me, with Cliff Kingsbury being there, how dynamic Jaden Daniels is, I think it just is a no-brainer that he goes number 2.
And the most improved player I've ever seen in doing this in the draft.
I don't know. Burrow had a pretty big rise.
But this
I think James was bigger, though.
Yeah, this one's even bigger.
And if you're Jaden Daniels, you should want to go to a situation like the Commanders because you look at the pass catchers. They have experienced guys there. When you look at Austin Eckler becoming the running back there as well, if they can just improve the offensive line structure, that offense should be entertaining.
Okay, Pete Prisco making that pick at number 2. Pete Prisco thinks he could be a general manager in the NFL.
I mean, Rick Spielman was.
Rick Spielman was the actual general manager in the NFL, and he has the pick at number 3, a pick held by the Patriots, but I'm being told we have a trade alert. Rick, what's up?
Yeah, this was Rick Spielman from an undisclosed hotel with an undisclosed location as the auxiliary GM on this. But I have the Minnesota Vikings get very aggressive, going up to number 3 overall pick. They're going to give up both number 1s. I think they would even give a number 1 next year or maybe a number 2. If I'm Elliott Wolf, I'm just holding the fort. It's going to cost you 3 1s to come up and get your quarterback, Drake May. Me and Ryan Wilson were at the Pro Day, and Josh McCown, who's now the quarterback coach at the Minnesota Vikings, coached him in high school. I hear a lot that the coaches are in love with this kid, think he's the next franchise quarterback up there. I do love his athleticism for his size. I love his arm talent. I do not like his decision-making and all the things that he did this year. Played much better in 22, but coaches think they can get that corrected. So I'm going to say the Minnesota Vikings get aggressive and go up and get Drake May.
And I love this, Rick, because, yes, you have to give up a lot to go up and get Drake May, but you're getting QB3 as opposed to perhaps J.J. McCarthy if you trade up to 4 or 5. And the other thing to keep in mind And Danny, I know that you like Drake May more than I do, and maybe some other people on that 8 across set you guys are on right now. But the thing I keep reminding myself is that Drake May is only 21. Jaden Daniels is 23, Bo Nix is 24, Michael Penix Jr. is almost 24. So if you go back to when those players were 21, they were completely different than what they are now. And I think that's what's enticing about Drake May. I didn't love his tape in 23, but as Rick mentioned, in 2022, it was much better, and you have to take the totality of their career. And I think in the right system, and look, there are fewer better places to land than with Kevin O'Connell in terms of developing young quarterbacks. It makes a lot of sense. It's just going to cost you. And if you don't get it right, if you're the GM and head coach of Minnesota, then there's some questions, hard questions, are going to have to be answered in a year or two.
I think he's Josh Allen light. I mean, even when we describe him, it sounds like it when we're saying he's a little bit erratic, the accuracy's there, decision-making. It's very similar to the criticisms that were coming for Josh Allen out of Wyoming, except he did have the year 2 seasons ago where he was phenomenal, and the touchdown to interception ratio was much better, his completion percentage, and he did lose some weapons from that team and was a different offensive coordinator this past season. But I also think we keep forgetting he is a baby out there. I mean, he's a raw potential. I think he's probably the rawest of these guys as far as, so many guys now are so polished. They've been going to 7-on-7 and having personal trainers since the time they're 10 and 11 years old. And then when you get like a 23, 24-year-old, all of a sudden they're almost tapped out of what they can be. I think Drake May still has a long way to go, which is a good thing. All right,
quarterbacks 1, 2, 3 in the big trade there for the Vikings moving up, and the Patriots then receiving the 11th and 23rd picks along with a first rounder next year in this mock draft. So, B-Mac, you've got the 4th pick, the Arizona Cardinals. It can't be a quarterback here unless you want to trade out of this spot. Who do you like?
For Arizona, when you talk about trying to improve their team, get another offensive weapon for the quarterback in Kyler Murray, the Arizona Cardinals with the 4th pick select Marvin Harrison Jr., big-time playmaker, one of the more coveted wide receivers that we've watched throughout collegiate football over the last 2 seasons. Some people feel like he's the best non-quarterback player in the draft. You talk about having the bloodline. His dad was a Hall of Famer, Marvin Harrison Sr. with the Indianapolis Colts. Outstanding player. Get the football in his hands, allow number 18 to do what he's been able to do, which is get into the paint, give you productive yards, and he instantly becomes your wide receiver 1 for Arizona. Remember, they allowed Hollywood Brown to test free agency. He's now a Kansas City Chiefs. This is a big-time need for the Arizona Cardinals. Big-time need for a guy like Kyler Murray.
Yeah, B-Mac, this is a home run pick for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray hasn't had a true X-receiver since DeAndre Hopkins was there. So if you look at Marvin Harrison Jr., he kind of fits that mold as well. A big receiver, great body control, can do everything really well. I think at times, guys, people got kind of bored kind of with Caleb Williams and figuring out, would Marvin Harrison Jr. be the best receiver in this class? Because you heard rumblings that a lot of people prefer Malik Neighbors, but my thing is Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't done anything to warrant not being the best receiver in this class. So
he hasn't done anything.
Right. You're talking about post, draft process. But the film, he's done enough on film, though. Yeah. What he did throughout the season.
Pete's one of those guys, though, that likes Neighbors a little bit more.
Yeah, but clearly, if you turn on that Wisconsin tape, they don't win that game without Marvin Harrison Jr. And they had inadequate quarterback play this year, and yet he still put up close to or around 1,200 yards receiving. That lets you know how special he is.
Going back to a segment we did earlier in the week, Deuce's Dogs.
Yeah.
You said Rome Odunze. You think he's going to be the best receiver?
I think he will be when it's said and done. Be the best receiver out of all 3 of these guys.
Oh, I don't. I think Neighbors will be, but again, I can understand this pick with Harrison. He's a great player. He just hasn't done anything. We don't know what his 40 time is. What's his 40 time?
No one knows.
We saw what he did on film. And if people are going to draft people off the film, that's all that matters.
Nobody knows.
I ain't that impressed with Wisconsin's DBs, but I'm just saying. or many of the other Big Ten DBs.
Though. All right, so the Cardinals also have another first-round pick coming up at 27. They have 11 total picks. Nobody has more. Ryan Wilson and the Chargers on the clock. Might we see another trade? J.J. McCarthy still available? Or will Ryan give Jim Harbaugh a top-flight talented wide receiver or perhaps offensive line? 5th pick is next. We are 4 picks into our first-round mock draft here on HQ Spotlight, and the first 4 picks went as planned. Other than the trade that we had with the Vikings moving up to take Drake May, all those guys went in order with quarterbacks 1, 2, 3, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. We resume our mock draft at pick number 5, Ryan Wilson. We've already seen one trade. You are picking for the Chargers, and we had a lot of mock drafts from you that had the Chargers trading out of there for somebody that might want to come up and take a J.J. McCarthy. What are you doing with the pick?
Phone's not ringing. I can't believe no one wants to come up for J.J. McCarthy. I would love to spend my time, Chris, rebutting Pete Prisco's insistent that Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't done enough to show that he's the #1 wide receiver, but I'll save that for another occasion. Instead, what is Jim Harbaugh going to do? I would take a Rome Odunze or Malik Neighbors here. I would imagine Justin Herbert would prefer that. Keenan Allen's gone. Mike Williams is gone. But Jim Harbaugh is going to Jim Harbaugh. We know they have the new offensive coordinator there who likes to run the ball. I'm taking Joe Alt, and he is the best offensive tackle in this class. He's ready to play right away. You got 2 left tackles now. You got to figure out which one's going to play on the right side. But I think he's a plug-and-play guy. You figure out the offensive line. You cannot protect Justin Herbert enough. He took a beating, and if he weren't 6'6", 240 pounds, he might have played fewer games than he did. So Joe Alt goes #5 overall, and this feels about the range he'll go off in real life, although I would have been impartial to a wide receiver here.
A lot of people that have a Joe Alt #7 to the Titans tickets in props, but yeah, he might go to the Chargers there at 5. Danny Cannell, back in the day, drafted by the Giants in the what round? Fourth round.
Yeah.
You're going to make the pick for the Giants here.
Hey, that was great value for a 4th rounder. Come on.
He wanted
great value.
He wanted NFC East Division Championship.
That's right. I have been anxiously watching the pick ahead of me, the #5 pick, and thrilled that now I can select Malik Neighbors. I do think I'm more with Pete on this one. I'm not 100% sold on Marvin Harrison Jr., that he's this separator. I think a lot of it's preference, too.
Yeah.
I like a guy who's a little bit more explosive, a little bit more twitchy, and loves the way he goes and gets the ball, the 50-50 balls. He's got great deep ball. He plays the deep ball extremely well, sets up DBs. I love this kid. I think he's, and I don't believe the Giants exploring the quarterback options. I think a lot of it's smokescreen. I think they're kind of stuck, to be honest with you, with Daniel Jones with that contract. So they're going to give it one more try. Let's give him some weapons to work with. I think this is a great option for him to throw to.
Huge, big time need. I mean, when you talk about being entertaining at the wide receiver position, the last player the Giants had that type of, attribute was OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. So Malik Neighbors, coming from LSU, just like OBJ, he would be a difference maker day one.
Don't get on a boat. In the same sense.
They got to get to the playoffs first.
That will mean, and look, even if he doesn't go at 6, you would think that he's going to go somewhere in the top 10, and that would mean that LSU is the first team that would have a quarterback and a wide receiver go in the top 10 of the same draft. Will Brinson has been sitting around patiently. I don't think he's been able to say a word yet. He's up at #7 with the Tennessee Titans.
I mean, I'm a Milford man. I like to sit in silence and not talk very much. I'm well known for that. Look, I tried to get a trade drummed up here on trying to get someone to come up and get J.J. McCarthy. We got a bunch of haters in this draft group. So instead, I'm going to do what I think everyone believes the Titans are going to do, and that's sit there at 7 and just take the best offensive lineman available. I think it's possible. Pete and I were sort of talking about this on text earlier today, but that we could see even like J.C. Latham go to the Chargers at 5 if they end up drafting there, and then Joe Alt being available here for the Titans, but he's not. So we'll go Olu Fashanu. I think you bring in Brian Callahan, you bring in Bill Callahan, maybe the greatest offensive line coach of all time. He's going to try and improve that unit right away because Will Levis needs the help, and it feels like Tennessee is invested in him. Tempted to troll Pete by taking J.J. McCarthy, a better quarterback than Will Levis here, but ultimately win offensive line.
First off, he will not be a better quarterback than Will Levis.
He's a winner, though.
He's a leader and a winner. So is Tim Tebow. And how'd that work out? Will Levis is going to be a big-time player for the Titans, and getting a left tackle makes all the sense for them. You play him next to Skoronski. You already signed Cushenberry to be the center. Your offensive line is much better, and it was a major problem last year.
Quiet as kept, Titans have had a real good offseason when you look at some of the players they've had.
Spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if you like this pick here, you get 11-1 odds that Fashanu goes 7 to the Titans. At #8, this is a pick, but Lige has been waiting for this pick.
A lot of people
found out who
for this
Bryant
pick.
was going to take here because you hinted at it yesterday when you were on HQ. It's the Atlanta Falcons. You live in Atlanta, so you kind of know what the pulse is there. Who are you going with?
Well, when you talk about the board and the best available players, I, for one, felt like the Chargers would potentially get a pass catcher when you look at some of the top 3 guys. Marvin Harrison already off the board. Of course, Malik Neighbors was there for the New York Giants. And now looking at this board, when you talk about best available player, it's not a huge need for Atlanta, but who would not want a guy, as LeJay said, could be the best wide receiver out of this class in Rome Odunze. So with the 8th pick, I have the Atlanta Falcons adding more weapons for Captain Kirk and the rest of that offense by selecting Rome Odunze 8th.
There will be riots in Atlanta if this happens. And you know I'm a big Rome Odunze fan. But look at the projected players I have. B-Mac, there's one football. You got Bijan Robinson, Drake London, who you just took in the first round 2 years ago, and Kyle Pitts, who they have not got the most out of. I know what you're thinking, and B-Mac explained it really well. GMs like to stick to their board. If Rome Odunze is a top 5 player on their board and he drops to 8, I think they truly do consider it. But they need edge and pass rush big time on this team. So if Dallas Turner or Jared Verse or Latu, or even Byron Murphy, I would even consider taking Byron Murphy if he's a top 10 guy on your board. That is a much bigger need. And if it's only about 3 or 4 spots different, B-Mac, I don't see them taking Rome Odunze. I see they would probably go with a pass rusher instead.
You're fired. Falcons called, you're fired. You can't take a wide receiver when you let your best pass rusher last year was the kid from Penn State who had 6 sacks. They have no sacks, no pressure. You have to get somebody who can knock the opposition quarterback down. This is a bad pick, B-Mac.
You will be able to do so, and you got to factor in the division that they're playing in. It's not like you need a outstanding New York Jets type of defense to be relevant in the NFC South when you're playing against the likes of Derek Carr, Bryce Young, and Baker Mayfield. When you talk about having a player like Rome Odunze, who we all believe potentially could be off the board by 6, still there at 8. And to your question about only having one football, they have one football in San Francisco with all those offensive weapons that they have. Guess what? They found a way to get it done. They have one football in Detroit with all the playmakers that they have. They found a way to get it done.
One team has Nick Bosa and the other one has Aiden Hutchinson.
Now San Francisco, they got an outstanding group on the defensive side. Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson and who's else? They give up a lot in Detroit. It's about making timely plays and getting timely stops. Even if you add a guy like Dallas Turner, they're not going to be the monsters of the midway instantly. It's going to take time. When you talk about having Raheem Morris, who's an outstanding defensive-minded coach, that scheme can get players to be better than what we've seen in recent years for Atlanta. Rome Odunze instantly improves the team, I think, dramatically, by far more than what we would see if Dallas Turner is on their team.
So that's your rundown right there. The other one better be your resume because you're fired.
We will readdress this situation in January, February.
If this happens, there hasn't been a defensive player taken yet, right? If this happens, this would be the first time in the modern draft era that a defensive player wasn't taken in the top 8. The Bears are up once again at 9 after I had them taking Caleb Williams to start. Ryan Wilson, I'm going to hand the honors to you for the Bears at 9.
Chris, I can't believe I'm living in a world where I have to disagree with B-Mac and agree with Pete Prisco. B-Mac, I don't know what's going on. I know you don't drink, but you might be doing drug tests. I don't get it, but I appreciate you passing on the defenders. I'm going to take one here. I've talked to Lige about this thousands of times, it feels like. I would think about Byron Murphy here. I love him as an interior defensive lineman, but instead, I'm going to go Jared Verse, edge rusher. He gives you exactly what you need if you're Chicago. You get Caleb at number 1, Hassel when you made that pick, and then you get incredibly stout against the run. And B-Mac and I were talking about Jared earlier today, and here he is against Louisville, just throwing the left tackle at the feet of the quarterback. That's all over his tape. He is so incredibly consistent, both against the run and the pass. And at one point, he was a tight end out of Pennsylvania, 0 start going to Albany. And here he is, almost certainly going to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah, Ryan, I love this pick. Jared Verse, when you talk about this game, it's all based off the power. You saw it on the clip right there, literally dismantling offensive tackles. But I really love, guys, that he decided to come back. He could have left last year, been a first-round pick, came back and really elevated his game, worked on his pass rush moves. Now, off the power, he can counter off of that. I love that he's a relentless player, plays with great effort, and he's strong at the point of attack. We saw, Pete, what Montez Sweat did for this defense. It transformed it. Just imagine another edge guy on the other side. This defense is one of the top defenses the last 6 weeks of the season. You add another edge rusher to Montez Sweat, this defense could be elite.
Yeah, I like adding an edge player. I just would have added Dallas Turner. I think he's a better player. I think he's going to be a better player on the next level. Sorry, FSU guys. I know when you guys are getting all over me like you get over
you can be wrong again. It's okay.
Didn't you have him taking Chop Robinson, though, in this spot?
I did.
I think
Chop Robinson, to me, Chop Robinson might be better than all of them. But Turner was gone when I did that Chop Robinson pick. Dallas Turner was gone.
I got a question for Ryan. If Rome Odunze was there, would the Bears go with him or would they take the pass rusher?
Now that's a story you can sell to the fans, right? That makes some sense, especially if you like Caleb and Keenan Allen's 32 years old. That I would understand. It would be really close for me. And if you went with Rome Odunze, or if Chris House preferred Rome Odunze to go with Caleb Williams, I could get on board with that very easily, because as B-Mac is right. Rome is special, and it's just a matter of finding the right fit for him. I just don't know if Atlanta's going to be it for him. In terms of Leger's point, there's only one football to go around.
It's good you answered that question, because somebody in the league told me that the choice will come between Odunze and Murphy for them maybe in this spot. So that would
For Chicago.
Yes.
Got to make do with this pick if you're the Bears, because they only have 2 more picks after this. 2 in the top 9 picks, but then only 2 the rest of the way, a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. All right, it's finally time for Leger to make a pick. We were making you wait because we wanted to give you the Jets. Now, Brock Bowers is the favorite to go here at plus 180, but you're going elsewhere.
I am. I tried to make a call to the GM from Atlanta to get up to pick number 8.
That's why he was so mad. I didn't answer the phone.
They could still get at 10, which makes too much sense. But we went in the offensive line. We went with Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, a guy that can play in the interior offensive line and play at right tackle. Yes, the Jets did trade for Morgan Moses, but he's coming off a torn pec, and he's in his mid-30s. And Pete, you know this, Tyron Smith hasn't had a healthy, complete season in like 4 seasons. So you need some leverage and a guy that can back up 2 of those tackle spots. Talise Fuaga is the guy for the Jets.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we will hit the teams. The New England Patriots are on the clock up next. They traded out of that number 3 pick, so this will be their first pick of this mock. On NFL Draft Eve, we are 10 picks into our super mock here on HQ Spotlight. The big move was a mock trade between the Patriots and Vikings. Minnesota moving up to 3 to take Drake May. The Patriots now up at 11. And you still have those 4th and 5th ranked quarterbacks on the board. J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr. Rick Spielman making this pick. Rick?
Yeah, like Pete just fired B-Mac from the general manager. Elliott Wolf is getting named general manager and executive of the year. This worked out perfect for him. He moved down to 11. He got an extra 1st-round pick. He got an extra 1st-round pick next year. And they take J.J. McCarthy. There were a lot of rumblings that they were even considering him at number 3, but they get him here at number 11. Pete's going to say, oh, he's just a winner and leader, but that doesn't count in the NFL. It does. I think this kid is a very good athlete. I think he can throw the ball at all levels of the field. I think he's underrated as a passer. And don't discredit him for just running the offense that Jim Harbaugh wanted to run. This guy is going to be a very good quarterback, and I think the New England Patriots knock it out of the park here if they end up getting J.J. McCarthy at 11.
Rick, I don't love the pick, and I'm going to say this because if you look at New England's roster, it's talent deficient, right? When you look at J.J. McCarthy at Michigan, he had top players all across the board. He had the best offensive line in football. He's going into a spot in New England where that's going to be the opposite case. He's going to have one of the worst offensive lines in all the NFL. So if this is a scenario where you're taking him and saying he's not going to play this year, I maybe understand it. But if he has to play this year, I don't love this pick.
Well, we'll give them credit for getting the extra picks to move down and take him, because there's some scenarios where they actually have New England taking him 3rd overall in some mock drafts. So that's a possibility. You hear the Patriots like him. I understand this pick in this process. I probably would have went in a different direction, and we'll probably get to that coming up when I make my pick.
Oh, yes. Pete, you have the next pick. It's the Denver Broncos at 12. They are very much in need of a quarterback.
And they will take one right here. They will take Michael Penix. And I think Michael Penix is one of those guys that has been downgraded leading into the process, and all of a sudden everybody's going back and doing reevaluation of him, and he's going back up again. I think Michael Penix can stand in there, make every throw. Sure, the medicals were concerned. You hear nothing but good things about the medicals when you talk to people around the league. Sean Payton needs to get a quarterback in this spot. Michael Penix will be the pick.
I think his film from the start of the season to the finish, and even the last 2 years, is better than anybody else. I mean, it's been consistent from start to finish. He stretches the field vertically better than anybody else, best deep ball passer. I love this pick. There has been some conversation about Bo Nix at this spot. If it's Bo Nix, then everyone in the Broncos organization should be fired, especially if Penix is on the board.
Only if they move down, I think.
Correct.
In this spot, if Penix is gone, if all 5 quarterbacks were gone in this spot, I think they trade down and maybe get Bo Nix that way.
The over-under for total quarterbacks picked is 4.5. We already have 5 here in the first 12 picks of our mock. B-Mac, you're up next with the Raiders at 13.
Yeah, of course, with Pete taking Michael Penix Jr. off the board, that was a name that was associated with the Raiders. They got to look elsewhere to try to improve their team. Offensive line is a big-time need. Opposite of Colton Miller trying to solidify the right side, I have the Raiders taking J.C. Latham with the 13th overall selection in the first round.
I love that pick, B-Mac. They lost Illuminor to the Giants, so they have a void there at right tackle. And I think if Michael Penix Jr. had failed at 13, they probably would have ran that card in, but Pete took him at 12. J.C. Latham, to me, is the best run blocking tackle in this draft. He just gets after guys. Turn on that Michigan tape. Chris Jenkins is going to be probably a third-round pick. He got after him in that game. So you talk about tenacity and the attitude of that team with Antonio Pierce. J.C. Latham fits in perfectly with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Pete, did you think you had the Raiders pick? You dressed up like you were making a run.
No, I'm just
the silver and black.
No, I knew who I was picking.
All right. Let's go to the Saints at 14, and Ryan Wilson is making that pick.
Just laughing at Pete dressing up as Lester Hayes back in the day for Halloween. All right, so the New Orleans Saints, this is pretty simple. Mickey Loomis probably will try to trade up, but if he can sit here and get someone like Troy Fautanu, the left tackle out of Washington, that feels like a layup. Trevor Penning, they traded up for a few years ago. He hasn't quite worked out at left tackle. Ryan Ramczyk, we don't know what he's going to be health-wise going into the season. So Fautanu gives you tackle, guard versatility, and he fills a huge gaping hole along the offensive line for the New Orleans Saints.
That would be the third Washington Husky taken in the first 14 picks. At number 15, it's Danny Cannell selecting for the Colts.
So I thought about this long and hard. Brock Bowers still available. I thought about it, but I saw the picture of him next to Rob Gronkowski, and I said, thanks, but no thanks. And then I went for the best corner available. It's position of need. This defense has been atrocious, and I have the pick. I got the best corner. No one's been taken yet. I'm going to take Terrion Arnold out of Alabama. He's fast. He can cover. He's smooth in and out of breaks. Recovers nice. Like his length, too. I'm going to go Terrion Arnold.
And the thing with me, when you watch Arnold play, understanding he ran a 4.5 at Indy, but he doesn't play 4.5. When you talk about his collegiate film, name me another cornerback that we're going to talk about throughout this draft process that played against that level of competition Terrion Arnold played against. Brian Thomas Jr., Lad McConkey, Malik Neighbors, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and he stayed right in the hip pocket of all of those said wide receivers, and he played at a high level. This is a huge need because in the AFC South, when you talk about your defense playing against Houston and those wide receivers, when you look at Jacksonville and now with Tennessee, adding a guy like Calvin Ridley, you better have corners that can cover, and this is a big-time need for the Colts.
All right, let's move on to number 16, the Seattle Seahawks, and Leger is making the pick.
Yeah, GM Rick Spielman tried to fleece me here and come up from 19.
He tried to trade again?
Yeah, he tried to trade, but there's no way I'm trading within the division for the Rams, knowing I know who they want to get. But I'm going to take him. Byron Murphy, the #1 defensive prospect in this draft class. Yes, they just paid Leonard Williams, but you need another guy inside. This guy has so much explosion in his lower half, great lateral quickness, plays with great leverage, and he can literally wreck games by himself. So to me, it just made sense. On a lot of boards, he's probably going to be a top 10 player. To get him at 16, that's great value for the Seattle Seahawks to shore up their defensive line.
He was one of Deuce's dogs.
He was.
Byron
He is
Murphy.
a dog.
Game wrecker. We're halfway through our super mock here on HQ Spotlight. When we come back, we will move to pick number 17. The Jags on the clock. Hey, that's going to be Pete Prisco. Brock Bowers is still available. So is Dallas Turner. That pick is coming up next here on HQ Spotlight's Super Mock. Here on HQ Spotlight, we're halfway through our first round mock, hitting pick number 17, and these are the best available prospects. Brock Bowers is still out there, number 7 overall prospect at CBSSports.com. And now the mayor of Jacksonville, struggling in the polls after he promised an AFC championship last season and ended up falling short of the playoffs. Pete Prisco at number 17.
I am the mayor. Never forget that. I was going to take Dallas Turner here to add depth to the edge position, but their cornerback position is such a mess right now. Yeah. Tyson Campbell's in the final year of his deal. Ronald Darby's a veteran. Yeah. They need to find a corner. I will take the best corner in this draft class, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo. I think he's a no-brainer for them. If he falls to them, they have to race that card up to the podium and take him as their starting corner.
Speaking of falling, Brock Bowers is still on the board. He has an over-under draft position of 11.5. Will Brinson, you have the pick for the Bengals at 18.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a run on these top-end wide receivers, so I think that's a reason. T. Higgins requested a trade, according to reports. Trey Hendrickson also requested a trade in news that came out this afternoon. So you got multiple positions the Bengals need to fulfill with unhappy players if they're not willing to pay them. Instead, though, I think you take the best player available. You go get Brock Bowers. Give Joe Burrow another weapon, especially when you look at that wide receiver room and you look at the contracts of the wide receiver rooms and the wide receivers in the room, and you're not necessarily locked into all these great weapons for a long time. I think it's a really good fit with Joe Burrow.
All right, that's 18. At 19, we finally have the Rams, their first-round pick since 2016 when they took Jared Goff, number 1 overall. Aaron Donald retired in the offseason. Rick Spielman has this pick. Ligier said he tried to trade up to 16 for Byron Murphy. Are you going defensive line here, Rick?
Yeah, well, GM Dews, I gave him 5 first-round picks, and he still said no.
No, he did not.
And I tried to call GM Danny Canal, and he wouldn't even take my call. But he didn't listen. I'm a little bit stuck in a corner here. I do need to try to get a replacement for Aaron Donald. There's no one in this draft that can do that. Maybe Byron Murphy II could come close, but I went with the next one. There's only 2 defensive tackles, in my opinion, that have first-round draft picks. So I went with Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle out of Illinois. And those other 2 GMs are very, very selfish.
By the way, he might have given you 5 first-round picks. He once gave up a first-round pick for Sam Bradford.
Oh, shots fired.
Couldn't hear a damn thing that Rick was trying to say to that poor guy. That's why we need to get him on here, the 8-man set. Let's move to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who drafted our guy, B-Mac. That was almost 20 years ago now, B-Mac. 19 years ago. They drafted in the second round.
Wait,
No, right.
I'm really old.
They're picking 20. You wore number 24.
I wore number 20. Makes sense, right? So for the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, trying to address the wide receiver room has been well documented. I'm hearing great things about Brian Thomas, the junior associated with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Pittsburgh Found. They go get their wide receiver of the future outside of what they already have when you talk about George Pickens and Brian Thomas Jr. Talented player, had double-digit touchdowns this past season there at LSU. Love the speed. We saw the speed in Indy. We also watched the speed throughout his collegiate days there in Baton Rouge. I think he's going to be a big-time difference maker.
That's the Steelers at 20. B-Mac, the cornerback, taking a wide receiver, another wide receiver heavy draft we expect. At number 21, Danny, you're selecting for your hometown favorite team as a kid.
Yeah. No, I have been watching this pick for about 10 deep, seeing, wait a second, and I have my draft room board up there, and I'm like, wait a second, best available player has been up there for a while. Give me Dallas Turner, position of need as well. The offense, we've seen them, attack that and bring so much, capital to that side of the ball. Now they've had injuries last year. We saw that defense, wreak havoc early, and then they fell apart when they started getting injured. They need somebody to get after the pass rusher, especially in the division, going against Josh Allen, going against Aaron Rodgers, going against J.J. McCarthy now. I don't have to be worried that much about that one. But I do think if they want to make it again in the AFC and go through that gauntlet, they got to get somebody who impacts the passer. So I'll go Dallas Turner.
Yeah, we had the Patriots taking J.J. McCarthy earlier on in this mock draft. Let's go to number 22, Ryan Wilson picking for the Eagles.
Yeah, so we might try to trade up when Thursday night rolls around here and try to get a cornerback. Top 2 corners are gone. Cooper DeJean would be an option here. Is he a cornerback? Is he a safety? Instead, we're going to go with right tackle Amarius Mims. Pete said during the break this is the biggest boomer bust candidate, and I think that's actually right. Only 8 games, but he is one of the largest humans on planet Earth, let alone in the NFL, and I think he gives you some something behind Lane Johnson moving forward, and if you hit on him, he will fill in Lane Johnson's shoes, and it almost will feel like you won't miss a beat. Right tackle Amarius Mims out of Georgia.
Biggest boomer bust, why?
Well, he hasn't played a lot of football, and he plays a little lazy at times, but the talent is immense. I mean, if he puts it all together, he's going to be a Pro Bowler. But again, he could go from Pro Bowler to be out of the league in 4 years.
All right, let's bounce back to Rick because the Patriots are up once again after trading out of that 3 spot earlier. They got J.J. McCarthy, 11th overall, now the 23rd pick. Rick?
Yeah, I have to go with the best pass rusher on the board, and Laiatu Latu is the best technician out of all these pass rushers. We looked at him, and our doctor said he's completely healthy. But this guy can make plays as a pass rusher. Would like to see him a little bit more physical against the run, but I think this guy's going to affect the quarterback at the next level.
Okay, getting some help there in New England. He also got a first-round pick next year in that mock trade out of that 3 spot with the Vikings trading up for Drake May. Cowboys are on the clock next here on our mock draft. Chris Hassel joined by our 7 general managers. 4 of them are on set with me. But up next is the Cowboys here in our mock draft at number 24. And Will Brinson's doing the honors there.
Yeah, we're all in on the draft in 2024, whatever Jerry Jones wants to say. So we're going to take Tyler Smith, kick him back inside at left guard, and take Tyler Guyton and bring him in. We lose one Tyler, we got the left side is all Tylers, is what we're doing here in Dallas, and we are all in on the offensive line and getting better and protecting Dak Prescott this year.
All right, speeding along with the Packers at number 25, Pete.
And they get the best center in the draft in Graham Barton. He can also play guard, and they're talking about maybe moving right tackle Zach Tom, the center. I don't know if they do that, but Myers is in the last year of his contract, so I think getting a center interior player makes sense. I'll take Graham Barton from Duke.
Yeah, there were some who might think that they would be taking a quarterback here with this number 1 pick the way last season started, but Jordan Love proving he's a franchise quarterback. Lige, you've got the pick at 26 for the Bucs.
Yeah, the Bucs need a cornerback in the worst way. They traded away Carlton Davis to the Detroit Lions. Nate Wiggins makes a lot of sense. Todd Bowles kind of had a philosophy change in his defense, went more zone, but he's by trade a man guy, and there's nobody that's a better man coverage corner than Nate Wiggins. Has the long speed to play in man coverage. Now, you would like him to be a little bit more physical when it comes to tackling, but hopefully Todd Bowles can bring that out of him. But as far as the long speed, the man coverage, the press man coverage skills, he's one of the top guys in this draft. So I think it makes too much sense for the Buccaneers to take Nate Wiggins here.
Super athletic. The speed was documented in Indy, ran a 4.28, and he strained his hip in his first 10 yards of the 40. So just imagine what he would have been able to run if he was healthy throughout the entire 40. It reminds me a lot of Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie when he came out first rounder years ago by the Arizona Cardinals.
He didn't tackle anybody either.
Had a great career, though. Had a real good career.
Had a good career.
B-Mac, you've got the honors up next with the Cardinals.
Yep.
You had him taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4. They also have the 27th pick.
27th pick, we addressed the offensive concerns with Marvin Harrison Jr. With the second first rounder, I have the Arizona Cardinals adding Chop Robinson, Pete's guy. You talk about edge, adding depth to the edge position for the Cardinals. They have Zaven Collins already there, penciled as an edge rusher. The same can be said for B.J. Ojulari. Getting a guy in like Chop Robinson with a high ceiling. We talked about the speed. Pete, you talked about the first step. When you watch him on tape, he is the first guy off the football every single time. Hopefully that transitions nicely in the National Football League for the Arizona Cardinals.
Surprised he didn't put him on your better than team, Pete.
Well, he's
going
first
round.
I don't usually put first rounders on that team.
Some of those guys end up in the first round, though, because they get wind. Yeah, they get wind.
That's right. He bumps them.
All right, Bills are up next. We know they need a wide receiver.
Yep.
Danny, you have the pick.
No Gabe Davis, no Stephon Diggs. Give me Keon Coleman out of Florida State. You watch. Come back to me in a couple years. Watch what he does. He's big. He's physical. Way too much was made over the 4.61 40 time. And yet at the gauntlet drill, he led all receivers in the GPS where they actually had that getting him. He plays fast. He's big. He's a monster. I think he'll be Josh Allen's favorite target the minute he walks in that door.
Okay, he's the 7th-ranked wide receiver on Ryan Wilson's big board behind guys like Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy.
Come on.
Rick is up next. Hey, Rick's picking for his brother Chris, who's CEO of the Lions.
Meathead.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, GM Danny Cannell, that was a homer pick, and everybody knows that, so he's not going there to Buffalo. I am going to go, and Pete is right, I'm going to go Meathead Rick, Meathead Chris, and my next Meathead, don't believe all the smoke out there, Jackson Powers Johnson, offensive center from Oregon. He's the most dominant run blocker of a center that I've seen in a while. He can pass protection. He's played guard in the past. They need some help on the interior offensive line. The reason Detroit wins is because of physicality of what they do up front, and he brings that physicality to the Detroit Lions.
All right, another offensive lineman there. Moving to number 30, Lige picking for the Ravens.
Yeah, I thought about going to offensive tackle here, but all the top guys are already off the board, so they need some help in regards to pass rushing. Now, they do have Justin Madubuike, but I love Darius Robinson out of Mizzou because of position flexibility. He can play outside linebacker. He can play defensive tackle. I think he fits right in with the Baltimore Ravens. They're a physically minded team. That's all about about physicality, that's what Darius Robinson is. He's going to fit nicely in with that Baltimore Ravens defense.
Last few picks of our first-round mock here on HQ Spotlight. The 49ers are up. Maybe shopping Brandon Ayuk around. Brinson, you've got the pick.
Yeah, until I see Brandon Ayuk signed to a contract extension, I think wide receiver is live here for the 49ers. Yeah, I certainly could have thought about Cooper DeJean here. Instead, I'm going to go wide receiver there, go Ladd McConkey, because Ladd McConkey is fantastic. He's going in the first round despite all the skeptics and the haters and the losers on this GM panel.
Love McConkey. I just wouldn't take him for the 49ers in this spot, but I love McConkey. And I have the last pick.
Yeah, you got the Chiefs.
And the Chiefs need to get a left tackle in the worst way. But the way this draft played out, I don't know if they would. I would take Patrick Paul in this spot. They won't. I hear they're linked to the tackle at BYU, who they like a lot. I keep hearing Spielman now.
Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan.
I don't like him. But I'm going to take E. Mitchell, the wide receiver from Texas. You know the situation with Rice. That's bad for them. He's going to miss some games. You need to get a receiver. I think they could address that by taking Mitchell out of Texas.
Some were concerned we wouldn't be able to do this in an hour. We did it. Full first-round mock in like 50 minutes.
Let's face it, Noah sped us up in the last 15 picks.
He did. No follows. No more follows. All right, Noah, are we going to do one more pick on the other side? Okay, we're going to. We've got extra time. Why the hell not? The Panthers have the first pick of the second round. We'll give that pick. Gary Parrish has his top 25 and 1. This is the first-round mock draft and 1. It's our first-round mock draft and 1. The Panthers have the first pick of the second round because they didn't have a first-round pick. Ryan Wilson, who do you have him giving Bryce Young for some help?
No one on that team could get open under any circumstances. In no way, shape, or form was it Bryce Young's fault. So they're getting him Xavier Worthy, his 4.21 speed. He's 165, but he plays much bigger, stronger, and obviously faster than what we've seen from anyone else on that roster. And Hassel, I'm going to concede my time so Pete Prisco can make his short person's joke about receiver and quarterback.
Well, they'll see eye to eye when he's actually looking at him. You know what you should have probably done is drafted Spencer Rattler here to bring in some competition for That's what you should have done.
I'm a little surprised. Like Xavier Legette's still on the board. I think that would be a good fit. Hometown kid.
Bigger body.
They need a big receiver that can go up and get the ball.
They need speed, though. They're slow.
Xavier Legette ran what, like a 4.3?
He doesn't play like that guy does when it comes to speed, though.
Yeah, but when he gets jammed with the line of scrimmage, what he's going to do?
If you're going to draft a wide receiver, I'm drafting speed this spot, so I'm okay with Ryan's pick. But again, the quarterback, he needs help.
Spencer Rattler,
but he needs to grow a little bit too. That's the problem.
Rick?
Yeah, when Pete goes down to Carolina, he can see the quarterback and the receiver eye to eye, and Pete will be eye to eye. So all three of them.
No, Pete will still be looking way up.
I'll still be looking up at him.
Oh, my.
But I'm not getting paid millions to stand in the pocket and make throws either.
Let's recap our super mock draft with our 7 different general managers.
Who did the best job?
Yeah, who did the best job? I would say, well, BMAC, you got fired.
We know who did the worst job.
BMAC got fired for taking Rome Odunze to the Atlanta Falcons at 8. The big move in the draft was what you see highlighted at number 3, the Vikings trading up for Drake May, the New England Patriots trading down, picking up a couple of more picks, and still getting J.J. McCarthy at 11. The Broncos taking Michael Penix Jr. at number 12. Those were the 5 quarterbacks that went in the first round. We had 7 wide receivers, including, 4 of the last 6 picks were wide receivers there, and 23 of the 32 on offense. That would blow away the record.
Record's 19. Yeah.
I think it is going to happen this year like that, too.
About 26 hours away now. Not enough time to thank everybody on set or with us remotely, but we appreciate your time here on Spotlight.